Take up the white man's burden. Send forth the best ye breed. Go send your sons to exile, to serve your captives' needs, to wait in heavy harness, on fluttered folk and wild, your caught New sullen peoples, half devil and half child. So, Teddy Roosevelt said this wasn't a very well-written poem, this 1899 poem by Rudyard Kipling, after the United States had taken over the Philippine Islands. But he did capture the idea that the U.S., this newly imperialistic power, and this is one of the few times I'm going to talk about the U.S., has a burden, just like Great Britain, the burden of empire. Okay, and this poem was written in an American magazine, hence the white man's burden. Oh, the white man's burden. I'm going to play a little clip. It's going to explain what the British were thinking, at least outside of being monetary, about this. So if this has a little echo, you can pause it because I'm going to put it in closed captioning, so you can, if you have to turn off the sound, you can.
Been called by Providence. These wider global commitments found expression in the missionary movement abroad and the anti-slavery campaign at home, both underpinned by the belief that the great masses of mankind could and would be transformed.
I think evangelical Christianity has an important impact on attitudes towards race. And I think there is the first half of the 19th century attitude which is in some ways idealistic and also rather unrealistic. I think there is the hope that as they, the other, black and brown others, become subject to British rule, civilizing mission, the impact of Christianity, they will gradually, somehow, by some magic, turn into brown and black Englishmen and women. I think there's an enormous evangelical hope that will happen.
The sort of high point of universalist thinking, of the kinds of thinking which was, we are all the same, we can all become the same. And what underpinned that was that everybody can become like us. I mean, that was really what was imagined in the abolition campaigns. We are brothers under the skin, and the skin doesn't matter. But the skin did matter. And the problem is that after emancipation, when it became clear that emancipated Africans were not going to fit quite as easily into a picture of industrious, hard-working, domesticated men and women, which was what the abolitionists had imagined, then a sense of disappointment, a sense of economic failure, arguments begin to emerge about how emancipation hasn't worked, it's an experiment that hasn't worked. And what goes with that is new ways of articulating the differences between peoples that can no longer rest on, the problem is slavery, now there has to be something else. So the problem is, civilization, the problem is, these forms of barbarism which are still there. And they are, of course, associated also with skin and bones and hair and all those things. So there's a physical aspect to it. But I did.
Okay, so basically the idea is, we need to civilize these brown people. They didn't blend into our society after we abolished slavery the way we thought they could. Woe is us. We have a burden to do this. This racist view that was held was encapsulated in this poem. We've all talked about the economic reasons for imperialism, and of course those were the main drivers. But this was a secondary driver. This quote unquote burden to civilize these places. You heard the video talk about Christianity and the need to Christianize these lands. No question, very racist. This is one of your slides, right? One of your notes. I'm just basically kind of going through. I am going through with you. So basically, here's the burden. The burden is this poem by White Man's poem, this poem by Rudyard Kipling that symbolized the Western idea that they were responsible for helping people they conquered. And it was in everyone's best interest to do so. Well, not only are we getting money and resources and colonizing lands, we also, and promoting nationalism, we also are civilizing these people because they're not like whites, and we have a burden to do so. Okay, so again, the poem not particularly well written, and I didn't read all of it, but that's the main idea. That's the essence. So of course, there's two different perspectives of it, right? You have the Western leaders that had economic reasons for being imperialistic. They were looking for those markets. We already talked about this a lot. Goods and natural resources for their industries. But they had the notion, of course, that they were a superior culture, and this is the Western viewpoint. You can do a search and put the image in of Western leaders. As a famous image of the Yankee carrying the former slaves or people of colonized lands. They had this. So this is the Western leaders, and this is their perspective. Of course, the African and Asian leaders that were being colonized had a much different perspective, and this happens to be the Qing Emperor. We've talked a lot about the Chinese. The leaders in Africa and Asia resisted this Western control as much as they could. Japan, China attempting to remain closed, later forced open. We talked about this. Japan modernized or be colonized in the Meiji Restoration. China was carved up into those spheres of influence among other foreign powers, the British, the Germans, the United States with the open door policy. Of course, the Africans, which you've been working on, the African leaders have fought several wars against European conquest, but we're done in by the superior firepower of the Europeans. So again, this is just another justification for colonization. So what's your perspective? Couple bullets. What do you think? Is it racist? Do you see both sides? Do you understand both sides of the coin? What do you think this is really about? Economics, the need for natural resources. Remember, mercantilism. So those are certainly aspects to consider as we move forward. But again, this was in the background. This perspective of the white man's burden in terms of forcing imperialism.